Let's talk about Ezra Miller and him being a fugitive. A few weeks ago, I did cover, I think it was last week, I covered a little bit of this story, but it's just so much more mental than that now. The whole thing has gone even more to pot, and I thought it would be interesting to cover it because it really goes to show how insane Hollywood is and the sorts of people that occupy Hollywood and why you should never ever let anybody from Hollywood near your children. Speaking of people you shouldn't let near your children, Josh and Thomas recently did a discussion on the rise and fall of Oasis as a premium video. So if you're interested in seeing their take on Oasis being a genre-defining band from the mid-90s and Thomas's idea that they are, I think he has some idea of them as the voice of the proletariat almost. I mean, you know how Tom can be. So,
are you very anti-Oasis? They shouldn't be around your kids?
Well, more the way that Josh and Tom are dressed in this shirt, in this so far, to be honest. But no, I'm not a big fan of Oasis. They've got a few songs here and there, but I was always more of a Blur guy myself, although I will happily admit that Liam Gallagher is far more based than anyone from Blur ever has been. So, you know, there is that. If you're interested in checking that out, go to the website. It's premium content, so get a membership and enjoy. Anyway, so for those of you who aren't aware, Ezra Miller is an actor. He is most famous for playing the Flash in the most recent Justice League films. I think you aren't really aware of who he is. And so
how'd you guess?
Well, you seem so informed on pop culture, you know. So I thought I would go through a full detail of his career and, as Pink News puts it here, his transformation from teen star to queer icon. And queer icon nowadays has all of the dirty connotations that you would expect it to come with. And I thought it would also be interesting because Pink News have had to go from glowing praise of him to changing their tune a little bit more recently. And just buckle in, because this will get insane. So just for those of you who aren't aware of Ezra Miller, as this gives a decent enough breakdown. So he has grown up in the public eye. He's an actor from America, transforming from a reserved schoolboy into a gloriously queer butterfly. And once again, this is just another warning. Yeah, he was, I think, started at 16. If you are a parent and your kid wants to go to Hollywood to be an actor, no, don't say no. Look at Miley Cyrus. Look at all of the Disney stars. They all get messed up. They all end up drug addicts. And as we're going to see here, some of them end up groomers as well. They all end up broken and scarred. Don't let them near it. So he burst into the mainstream in 2010 in the film We Need to Talk About Kevin, where he played a psychotic teen called Kevin, which is foreboding. The film, an adaptation of Lionel Shriver's novel of the same name, premiered at the Cannes Festival and earned acclaim for both of its stars. So that kind of gave him his initial success, and then he went from success to success. He starred as a gay teen in a film called The Perks of Being a Wallflower, which I've never seen. And then he, in 2012, spoke about identifying as queer for the first time in 2012. He then went on to star in like Fantastic Beasts, the follow-up prequels to, say, the Harry Potter films, and as I've mentioned, The Flash and the Justice League. So he's kind of he's been quite a rising star from a very young age. You know, you look at it and you go, well, you know, good for him. He's been getting some success. But then we started to see increasingly weird behavior, and some of that was involved at Comic-Con, for instance, where in 2018, he dressed as a sexy Toadette from Mario, getting everyone's attention as the queer actor played with gender ideals. Good start. Yep, gender ideals completely transformed. If you just scroll down a little bit further, you can see him dressing in some stuff. There's sexy Toadette. Does this look like a normal and well-adjusted human being to you, Callum?
It could be just someone having a laugh. I don't know.
But would you let this
weirdo? But
would you let this man near your children?
Nah.
No, I wouldn't either. And he explained he does not identify as male or female, but uses he/him pronouns. And this was at the time. He has since changed his mind on this, although I'm still going to call him he because, I mean, obviously. 2018's Fantastic Beasts lined him up for an even bigger role in the Wizarding franchise. He was waging a one-person war on the gender binary, wearing a series of iconic, eye-catching outfits while promoting the film, including this sleeping bag that he decided to take to some world premiere in France here. And you can get the feeling of this is very attention-seeking behavior. Ooh, look at how weird I dress. Where am I? Look at how special I am. But for the most part, it seems like relatively harmless. Well, then he started to display some more weird behavior, such as when he came out and said that he had a polyamorous squad of sexual partners.
He's got a harem.
Pretty weird. Basically, yes, where he said that he was a sexual being and had found satisfaction in a squad he calls his polyamorous molecule, or polycule for short. Polyamorous group includes members of his genderqueer band, sons of an illustrious father, and others who fit in with the rest of his polycule's vibe. He explained that he found fulfillment in the polycule, saying, "I'm trying to find queer beings who understand me as queer right off the bat, who I make almost a familial connection with," because that's who you want to be having sex with, people you consider your family. And I feel like I'm married to them 25 lifetimes ago from the moment we meet. And then they're in the squad, the polycule, and I know they're going to love everyone else in the polycule because we're in the polycule and we love each other so much. There's so much cope and so much cult-like sort of vibes emanating from these statements, aren't there?
It's the kind of thing you want to call the men in the coats. It's like, the guy is just nuts. Like,
yeah, no, he is absolutely nuts, but so far, nothing outside of what we kind of expect from Hollywood.
So
it's the current year, exactly. I agree.
Why shouldn't you be able to have a familiar polycule?
Oh, but then there comes up. But then these Pink News articles keep mentioning some things that would probably inform his later behaviour, that kind of give things away that, yeah, this was not a normal person with a normal or healthy childhood, shall we say. He opened up about some formative experiences with sex, saying that during elementary school, which in the US runs until the age of 12, he had a friend and also sexual partner. And this is not to laugh at him for this. Obviously, this is a terrible thing, whether he realized it or not, that it is not normal or healthy to have a sexual partner at or before the age of 12.
Sorry, how was the partner?
I don't know. It doesn't mention in the article, so it might have been someone his age, which would still be weird, or even worse, it could have been someone older than him. But you could see how, given the sorts of psychological damaging effects that can have on a young boy, how, when we get to it, it informs his later behavior, potentially, as well as the fact that Hollywood is just a hive of degeneracy that nobody should be involved in. The actor, who reprises his role in Fantastic Beasts, revealed that he remembered having his first sex dream at 4 years old. He said it included a witch trapping him on a water spout, the column which tornadoes can form over a body of water, which he describes as being tantalizing and delightful. Once again,
it's pretty weird.
The signs were all here. Hollywood.
Were you having sex dreams at 4?
No, I wasn't.
I mean, either.
I was having nightmares and wetting myself at 4, like many other people, but, you know, I wasn't having sex dreams. He's also come out with things like saying that Jesus was a queer radical, and to this, I can only imagine that meme of the person saying, actually, Jesus was a queer, brown person of color, and the Christians just going, maybe you'd like to read about him then, and presenting the Bible, and they turn into the devil and just hiss away. But I imagine, as the article will go on, that he does hate Christians. So he said, I'd like to chill with Jesus. He seemed like a queer, radical person of color who was resisting an occupying empire. Literally, he is the meme. And alluding to anti-LGBT evangelicals, he added, I don't know how it's gotten so twisted up, you know what I mean? I identify with every single faith in the world and none because they're all effed up. Quote me.
Okay, well, that sentence obviously makes no sense.
Obviously also, not, but this is obvious attention-seeking behaviour.
I have always wondered from these people as well who are like, yeah, Christianity's pointless and it's, you know, obviously anti-gay, so we should have no involvement, but also gay marriage. I just wonder, why?
What do you see the institution of marriage as being if you remove it entirely from the religious components and such?
I mean, you want some kind of atheistic marriage, presumably, in which case, well, surely that's what a civil partnership is. Like you're doing it.
Yeah, but it wasn't enough because it means we haven't yet pushed the Christians under our boot and given them revenge for everything that they put us through. Because that's what all this always ends up being, revenge, let's be honest.
People who say that you can't be gay and Christian and that want gay marriage confuse me.
Yes, but on the subject of his gender identity, because everybody needs to know about that, he says, I don't identify, like F that. Queer just means no, I don't do that. I don't identify as a man. I don't identify as a woman. I barely identify as a human. And that's what the whole queer aspect is. Whenever you see people saying queer people existing is not a political statement, yes, it is. If they're using it in a leftist interpretation, queer means against the political norms.
Well, he's politically queer, not gay.
Exactly. And you can always tell from when they're using terms like queer instead of just using terms like gay or lesbian, because it has a political connotation to it. It's politically loaded. But at the same time, they want to have it both ways. They want to have their cake and eat it and say that it's queer is a political term, but also queer characters existing and other such things in fiction is not a political statement when it obviously is. He also opened up about his own Me Too movement, which came at the hand of a director and producer he declined to name. They gave me wine and I was underage, he said. They were like, hey, I want to be in our movie about gay revolution. And I was like, no, you guys are monsters. The 26-year-old added that one shining light of the current period is the ability to call out unacceptable actions like these. We effing survived it. That's what Hollywood is. I thought we all knew that we were sex workers, which is just a depraved way of looking at things, but also just goes to show how twisted and warped his mind is. I mean, this is
prostitutes.
But this is what Hollywood does to people. I mean, in Hollywood, I think it is sadly true that yes, you are a prostitute. You're preening for the camera. You may not have your clothes off all the time, but you are still selling a part of your soul for that. And that's that's why I think you see this sort of behavior in so many actors, because there's something just missing in them, especially when the producers and directors, like what happened with him, do take advantage. That's why you see so many people in Hollywood come out with such obvious and glaring mental issues. And sadly, when they develop these mental issues, they can also end up taking them out on other people, because as well as all of this weird behavior, then he started to lash out at other people, and more news stories came out about, including this one from earlier this year, where he was arrested over assaults that he committed in Hawaii. I'll just read through a little bit of this. A 29-year-old visitor from Vermont was arrested for second-degree assault after an incident at a residence in Palau. It's Hawaiian, I don't know how to pronounce it, said the police department in a statement. During the course of their investigation, they determined that he was Ezra Miller, who became irate after being asked to leave and reportedly threw a chair, striking a 26-year-old female on the forehead, resulting in a cut. The woman refused treatment. He was arrested as well earlier that month for harassment and disorderly conduct at a karaoke bar. According to the police, he grabbed a microphone from a woman singing and lunged at a man playing darts after becoming aggravated by a rendition of Shallow from the film A Star Is Born. So he must have thought their singing was that bad he had to take it into his own hands. I think from that same incident that they're mentioning there, he also later broke into that couple's hotel room and threatened to murder them. And I didn't get it for this, but there is quite an amusing police cam footage of when he was being arrested for doing all of this.
Was he screaming, I'll do it again?
Close enough. What he was doing, he was screaming at them for not using they, them pronouns when referring to him. And he was threatening that he was going to sue them for hate crimes because they referred to him as him and sir. They said, can you please calm down, sir? You're hysterical.
Stop
and then he went, they, them, my pronouns are they, them. It was insane. It's completely insane. And then the thing that I covered last week, where I went into some detail here. So if you want to see the full story of this, I'll just go over the cliff notes, check out the podcast I did with Carl last week. But basically, he was accused of cult-like tactics to groom someone's 12-year-old daughter. Okay, and so just to go over the cliff notes, he met this girl who was a Native American girl and her parents when she was 12, and apparently immediately took a liking to her. He said he is a self-described life coach, so he's like, I'll take you under my wing and I'll show you how to live your best life. And then he started, as the years went on, to take her on set with him. Like when she was 14, he took her on set of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and apparently everybody else on set just thought that this was perfectly normal. That a man in his late 20s was just bringing this 14-year-old girl with him. Okay, he offered to pay for her college, and then she dropped out at the age of 18 and then decided to stay at his place for a few days, where they apparently did lots of drugs, and apparently he'd been plying her with drugs before she hit 18 as well. And then she also began, after meeting him, identifying as non-binary transgender, and the parents did eventually file a restraining order against him. And then the daughter herself posted on Instagram defending him and accusing her parents of transphobia. That's just the cliff notes of that story. But it doesn't paint a pretty picture.
Mad.
It doesn't paint a pretty picture, does it? And it really makes you think when we call these people out for grooming in classrooms and they say there's no grooming in the political agenda. This is obviously a man with a political agenda. He identifies himself as politically queer. There is massive connotations to all of that. And he is proving every single stereotype about this correct. So maybe if those calling themselves queer don't want to get the groomer label thrown at them, maybe stop letting so many obvious groomers be part of your political movement. That's step number one.
Celebrating them in your newspapers, such as Pink News.
Yes. Well, they're having a little bit more trouble celebrating them nowadays. But then I thought I'd carry on with this because there has been some more developments in the story since this. And I thought this was a follow-up at first to the original one because, grooming a 12-year-old. I thought, this just must be more related to that same story. No. This is another 12-year-old. This is a completely different 12-year-old that he's been inappropriate about recently. So I'll just read through this article because this article and the stuff it's talking about is insane. Completely bat-ass nuts. And I'll just read through it. And if anybody wants to know how to react, just watch Callum's face. And we'll go from there. Okay, so hot off the heels of having one granted against him based on accusations of alleged grooming, Ezra Miller now has a second protective order issued against his persons, this time on behalf of a 12-year-old child who claims the actor acted so inappropriately towards them that they were scared to be around him. The incident at the center of the legal request occurred on February the 2nd, when Miller allegedly visited the 12-year-old's home in order to hang out with them, their mother, and the family's neighbor, the latter of whom knew the actor through the bandmate and close friend Whitney Souters. Well,
the idea, hello there, I just want to hang out with your 12-year-old girl.
Little bit unusual. So, according to the neighbor, when Miller arrived at the evening, the actor was wearing a bulletproof vest, and I had no idea until later that he was armed. Okay. Miller's emotions eventually flared when the child's mother recalled how she had recently done some traveling with her tribe, used in slang to reference to a group of friends rather than any sort of Native American community. So unlike the other girl, these people are just...
they're not Indians.
They're not Native Americans. These are just... Americans, I don't know what race they are, and it doesn't really matter. To which the actor snapped and accused her of cultural appropriation. As the night continued, the actor would once again make an attempt at critical race theory-based virtue signaling when, after asserting that the board game Parcheesi owed its roots to the Rastafari religion, the neighbor, himself half black, asked Miller to identify which exact Rastafari sect lent their influence to the game's creation. At this point, the neighbor says, Ezra explodes and started screaming directly into my face. He said, "You don't even know what the F you're talking about. What did you say to me? What did you just say to me?" I was, and then the neighbor just says, "I was caught very off guard." You don't say. I wouldn't expect that either.
Oh, that's someone who's been caught out. Don't you know I know this thing? I was like, no, you don't.
No, you don't. But then this guy is obviously a psychopath and has got a gun on him, which we'll find out. Amidst this outburst, the neighbor asserted that Miller had then opened up his jacket. He had this big Sherpa jacket, and he opened up one side, and you could see a gun. And he said, talking like that could get you into a really serious situation. So this is not somebody who just virtue signals. This is somebody who is willing to shoot you if you call him out on his obvious virtue signaling. Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Miller then turned his focus to the then 11-year-old, telling the child's mother, "Yep, here we go. I've talked extensively with your child, worrying, very worrying, and they have a lot of power to them."
They.
Well, I don't know if they're just leaving out the to keep it a bit more anonymous.
I'm on guard with this person.
I know. At one point, you're going to realize that you don't have any control over them anymore. They're an elevated being, and they would be lucky to have someone like me to guide them.
Yeah, sure, mate.
This
is
fine. Obvious grooming. Further, Miller next moved to berate the mother, accusing her of both being a witch and a vampire due to the fact that she dressed goth. "Do you want to drink my blood?" the actor repeatedly yelled. "Do you?" He then reportedly turned back to the child, proceeding to shower them with compliments, make moves to position himself physically closer to the child, touching their hips and even asking them to add him as their friend on Instagram. Upon learning that the child was a fan of horses, he is said to have told the child that they would buy a number of horses and allow them to come take care of them on his Vermont farm, only 40 miles away from the child's home. After apologizing for this incident, he reportedly returned to visit the home just 2 days later, this time without incident. And they make mention that he was obviously high while all of this was going on. But even if he wasn't high, I feel like he probably would still be like this, given the footage that I've seen of him and how he responds, and the fact that he was obviously trying to groom an 11-year-old in this situation.
I mean, it's almost a hostage situation with him being armed.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got a bulletproof vest on, he's got a gun, and he's trying to hit up your 11-year-old.
While screaming at you that you're interrupting his virtue signaling about how, don't you know this is a black
While
game?
screeching, are you going to drink my blood? Well, are you? I mean, Jesus
Dude
Christ.
needs to be knocked the frick out and give it over to the police.
He really, really does. And then if we carry on, unsurprisingly, Warner Brothers, after all of this, I mean, it took them bloody long enough,
Give him a promotion.
have said, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but an insider has said that they are likely to be dropped, that he is likely to be dropped from DC in The Flash, and they just said there's no winning in this.
Maybe. I love how there's a room of error in which they're like, well, you know, even if you did all this...
Well, duh. But and then I just wanted to finish up with the last one, and I can see I accidentally put the wrong link in there from Bounding Into Comics when I was going for the Pink News article instead. But I'll just read the text as I've got it, because it's from the Pink News article, because Pink News weren't really able to, big him up as some queer icon anymore, sadly, because,
Queer icon takes child hostage, screams at mother about blood drinking.
Well, actually, this does reference it a little bit as well, so this is still a relevant article. I just thought I'd get the Pink News one. But the text is from the Pink News. So authorities are now looking for the Flash actor to serve him a domestic violence protection order granted to the parents of Gibson Ionize, who was the girl that he was grooming originally, for alleged physical and emotional abuse as well as grooming. However, law enforcement have said they cannot locate or serve Miller. Following these claims and failed attempts by the law enforcement to find him, the actor posted multiple taunting Instagram posts on the 14th of June before deleting his entire account. One of the posts read, screenshots of which were posted to Twitter, "You cannot touch me, I am in another universe." Another continued with "message from another dimension," and then he rounded off with a quote that said, "I am shielded from negative people and their ill intent. My spirit, mind, body, soul, and success are not altered by anyone's envy. I am protected from all negative people, people attempt to throw at me. Subconsciously and consciously, I clear any and all hidden peers who are hidden enemies." And that's where we are up to this point, because as far as I'm aware, police still haven't managed to track him down so that they can serve him this protection order.
A weird, homeless, lunatic, queer icon in your backyard, call the police.
Yes, dressed as some kind of sexy toad, as he keeps saying, and screeching that you need to drink his blood right now, and waving a gun about. Please let the authorities know, because goddamn, this man needs to be locked up. But I do really think it's a shame, because he's obviously been somebody who's been groomed and abused in the past, and he is obviously somebody who has carried on that cycle of abuse. And this is why I just say maybe Hollywood should just burn. Maybe Hollywood should just burn.
The whole culture needs to go.
It really does, because it's obviously degenerate and sickening, if I'm completely honest.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this podcast, On the Left Doesn't Understand Economics, with Harry and Josh. If you want to follow what else Harry's putting out, you can follow him on Getter at Harry Lotus Eater on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.